Hi, this is Angela with today's Cup of Tea. We have done such a fantastic job of slicing and dicing and trying to perceive separation in all these different ways throughout this existence. And that was really part of our goal. Create a duality. The idea of duality, which is the idea of separation, the idea of opposites, and the idea of having to separate and having to categorize. And that's all very egoic. And part of that comes from the ego's need to create a hierarchy, because the ego needs to feel like it's important and special and feel like where it is in the hierarchy of things. And we talked about that. But what's really interesting is as we progress spiritually and as we progress, on the mass level in our consciousness evolution, the first thing that's important for us to remember, to start to try to release, is that categorization, because we're trying to release that perception of separation. And when we categorize, what do? We create another way of separating. And we've done it. We've done it to death. We've done it in a zillion different ways. And now it's time for us to start collapsing those separation perceptions. And particularly what's interesting is how, as many get on the spiritual path and many start focusing in the spiritual realm and on their spiritual journey and helping others in that regard as well, that there are just as many who try to categorize everyone else within the spiritual realm. And, I sort of get impatient with that, because I'm like, well, we're trying to get rid of categories. Why are we creating more? Why are we saying, oh, well, you're this and not that? And where that is the biggest concern of mine is with children and young adults. Because everybody wants to put them in a category. They want to put the adults in the category. They want to put the kids in the category. Are they indigo? Are they crystal, rainbow, whatever? There's a bazillion different names. And what happens is then you have all this delineation. Again, more splitting hairs. And all these books on that, on indigo children, on rainbow children, because what that is implying now is that there are some children who are and there are some children who aren't. That's not the case. I heard it best said when I went to New Mexico in 2011 and saw a woman called Little Grandmother. And somebody had asked on the question and answer part, somebody had stood up and said, well, what do you think about rainbow children or crystal or indigo children or crystal children? And so she was quiet, and she said it the best way I've ever said it, and I've repeated it so many times because it makes so much sense to me. And that is, we're trying, number one, she's talked about getting rid of categories and that perception of separation, which I totally got, stood for and stand for, and was saying well before that anyway. The next part is, well, here's the deal. She said, my understanding is those of us who are in, I guess, what you would call mid-adulthood, and she said mid-adulthood can be anywhere from 30s to 70s. She goes, we are the souls who have chosen quite an arduous path through this existence. And we're sort of the adventurers, the adventure seekers, all that kind of stuff. And so we're pretty tough souls. And we've decided we wanted to be here to facilitate the change. We volunteered to come to facilitate the changes that are going on in our world right now. So we volunteered to come into the world as it was at the peak of the perception of separation, and go through the exercises of remembering the oneness, remembering how to access our divine abilities, remembering how to perceive the world through the eyes of the divine, and going through the process because we thought it would be fun, which, some people will say, okay, do I call this fun? It's a matter of perception. And the children, the ones that are coming in, the ones who have come in, the ones who are in their 20s and younger, are the ones who came in here to be the change. Now, the only difference between all of us is how awake we are when we enter this world, and how much influence we have from the generation before us. We came in mid-adulthood, we came in to parents that were very, very in this density. And though many of us had very, very open sensitivities, very, very open abilities, we had them shut down when we were children because we were told they were wrong, they were bad, they were scary, all that kind of stuff. We just didn't talk about them. And that was part of what we wanted to experience. We wanted to experience having to overcome all that, like totally living and dedicating ourselves in this density, and then saying, okay, I've had enough of that, and now I'm ready to go back to my divinity. And the children now, what's happening is those of us who are going through that, which is a good vast majority of us, in one sense or another, and at different timelines, since we tend to be opening ourselves up and we are tapping back in, we are then encouraging. It's becoming much more encouraging to the smaller kids and the children and the young adults to explore those abilities and instead of to squash them. That's one thing, and that's very environmental. The other thing is the kids have come in, and the ones who are, even the ones in their 20s, they've come in to be in a world that is just forming now, that we're just evolving to now. So there are many challenges and difficulties that they have had because they just sort of don't like this world, and they didn't really want to be a part of this world. They came to be in the world that's going to be here as they mature, as they come in. So yes, there are different kinds of perceptions from that and different kinds of approaches for how to deal with people at different stages and everything. And there are some who came a little early. There's some who came a little later. It's just all again, it goes back to our individual timing. But it is not a free rein to go ahead and then categorize them, because I hear that all the time. Oh, I work with indigo children. I work with rainbow and crystal children, and I'm taking this class on how to deal with rainbow and crystal and indigos. And I'm just like, well, why don't you just call it the next generation? I know I'm taking a class on dealing with the children who are coming in today, the new world children, or the children. It's actually just the children, and it isn't separating them. It's just the fact that we are coming into this world and deciding to experience it in different ways. And it is very individual to each of us, because it's not saying that it has to be in their 20s. I've met people who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who are very much that way, and they are struggling with this world. And then there are others who are younger and not even ready to look at that. So this is the caution I put, because here's the thing. When you do that, then you are tagging the child. And that is no different than when in days of old, when you went to school and the teachers called you special needs, right? And how many parents were like terrified of that, because that tagged their child, that made them look stupid. Well, now special needs can mean something completely different. And it's still sort of scary to some parents and everything else. But why are we tagging? We are trying to remove the ego from this equation. We're trying to all just explore and encourage our individual paths. And that goes back to something I've spoken about many times in like discussion groups we have and everything else, because time and time again the topic of, say, like pride comes up, like how much humility should you have and all that kind of stuff. And I just sort of wait until somebody goes through that question, and I say, well, why do we need to have humility? And I said, because humility is an ego-based word just as much as pride is. My feeling is this: you and I are the divine. We are endless, limitless. We are so powerful. And all the fun right now is remembering all that. All the fun is clearing out all the muck that our egos, like sort of misinterpreted or convinced us, that we weren't, and convinced us that we were separate. Now we're just clearing all that muck and then finding the fun again, finding that connectedness and this wonderful higher vibration of living and happiness and joy. And so what I say to this is that when we categorize, when we separate, we're implying that one person is better than the other. Anytime we do that, it's implying that one person is somehow better than the other in one way or another. And so what I tell people when it comes to that discussion about humility or pride, I say, you know what? We are all the divine. We're all amazing, magnificent, just incredible creatures. And yet, And so and of course I know that I am. I know I'm amazing. I know I'm magnificent and beautiful and perfect because I'm the divine. But so are you in every way. So why, if we all look at ourselves as equally divine, equally magnificent, and just fabulous and just limitless, then why is it bad to have pride in that? Because it's not saying I'm better than you. It's saying I'm just happy being me. I'm happy being magnificent and fabulous, and you are too. And what's really cool is how we've had this individual path through this existence, and you're coming through to it from a completely different perspective than I am, and that's just as awesome. So, that's a way to look at things. That's a different way to look at things. It's starting to take down those walls of separation that we've gotten into such a habit of doing. We're in such a habit of trying to segregate and categorize and delineate and put in hierarchies and all that kind of stuff. Let's start taking those walls down. Why take them down in one area and put them up in another? So, on that, let's do our clearing today. Would you like all the following without trauma, drama, or illness, without creating or recreating any negative situations for illustration or experience, and all with ease, grace, balance, harmony, joy, fun, excitement, adventure, humor, and love and bliss? Would you like it for all versions of you, all times, all places, into the ever-expanding universe, to infinity and beyond? Would you like to receive all the information we request today via instantaneous and comprehensive download in the version, timeline, and place from which it is requested? Would you like to have for all the creators' truths and understandings, perceptions, perspectives, discernments, and definitions that come in from the seek clearing and healing? Would you like to replace your own creator's version, or replace your own and become your own for divine alignment? And would you like to offer all the clearing and healing that we do today to the higher selves of all ancestors and descendants, their version, if they so choose to accept? Would you like to dissolve, resolve, release, and clear all etheric binding agreements that require you to categorize, to segregate, to create a hierarchy for you or your ego, and that you must and give you the perception that you must do that you must separate and categorize? Would you like to get creator's truth on that as to why you had those in place, how it served you, how it will serve you to be without them? And then would you like to thank all parties involved, open the doors to apology and forgiveness, download the knowledge, understanding, feelings of apology and forgiveness to and from all parties involved? And then would you like to remove all beliefs related to these agreements, including I must categorize to decide which one of blank is better than blank. I am better than others are better than me. There are some people who are better than others. There are some people who are not better than others. Anything like that. Anything that has that categorization, hierarchy, and separation kind of perception. And then also pull underlying fears, anxieties, regrets, rejections, resentments, anger, and doubt and guilt. And also, would you like to pull the memory and energy of that from the cellular level, and the self-limiting thoughts, words, and actions from the cellular level? Pull those, transform to creator's light, send them back to creator, and close those receptors, open new ones, and saturate the cells and in between the cells with the highest vibration of creator's unconditional love. And download the beliefs: I am one with all, we are all one, we are all limitless, boundless, without designation, without category. We are all uniquely individual and beautifully limitless, magnificent, and divine. And get creator's truths and teachings on that, and understandings on that. And to download all the feelings, understanding, and knowledge of being that way, and knowing you are that way, and moving forward that way. And knowing that you're worthy, deserving, and able to, that it's possible, allowed, okay, and safe to, that you're ready, willing, and able to, and you have that in your life right now. And then would you like to heal, resolve, and clear the timelines in all directions to infinity with the violet and platinum flames, and write it off as completed in the Akashic records? And if you would like all of that, take a deep breath. Be open to receive. And say yes, separation. And that's it. Have a wonderful one. We'll talk to you next time. This is Angela with today's Cup of Tea.